Hello and welcome to another episode of What to Watch Today at reinvent, or just chatting with Marcia and her friends, because this is what we have been doing for the last week. What to Watch is just my excuse to invite good people over and chat about launches, how they've been experiencing reinvent, what is their favorite announcements, and what they're going to watch. So yeah, if you don't know what is this series, I recommend you to go and check the agenda. We still have a full week and a half of events coming up and like 5 episodes more. So there's still a lot of amazing people coming over. But today I have 2 of my favorite colleagues. I hope the rest are not listening because they're all my favorite. But I have to say, I'm super happy to have Danilo. Danilo is one of the first persons I met from AWS like million years ago. He recognized me from my YouTube channel when my YouTube channel have like my mom and it seems Danilo. So I'm so happy to have him on the channel again. And then I have Darko, that is one of the coolest streamers out there from our team. So he's always up for going online.
Absolutely.
How are you guys? How are you doing?
It's great. It's great. It's one of those the more exciting periods of the year for everyone who's interested in cloud. And thank you for having me, Marcia, because it's really good to chat with someone in this period where we are all at home.
I know. I've been trying to encourage people in my talks at the end, please message me. Don't feel afraid. I'm lonely at home. Well, not with those words, but kind of.
So this is kind of replacing the hallway track where we actually get to. So one of the things that I found fascinating about our team is that we get to meet each other a couple of times a year, which includes reinvent, right? And now I didn't have a chance to meet you and see you all in person. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to talk talk with you, Marcia, and talk to each other. So thank you very much for inviting us.
Yeah, maybe you can introduce a little bit yourself. I give a random presentation of you, but maybe the people watching don't know you, and they should.
Well, let me set up PowerPoint. Okay, let me start. My name is Darko Mesaroš. I am as well as these 2 wonderful folks used to be or are. So to an extent, I'm a developer advocate at AWS. Been working for AWS for the last 5 years. Started off in premium support in Dublin. Worked my way through AWS solution architecture, specialist solution architecture, and now I get to scream at the camera at people. So fun time.
Learning to answer.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm based in Berlin, Germany, but currently I'm in my childhood home in Serbia. So
that is very good decorated for YouTube.
Yes.
Like not like mine. That looks like a white wall.
Perfect. I really like the flickering of the screen. It gives this video game sense that I really love. Yeah.
Yeah. All the retro things are on.
Yeah. So I'm Danilo, and as Marcia said, I'm quite an old one for AWS. I joined more than 8 years ago. I started as a solution architect, and then I moved into developer relations. And since Lambda got started, I got super excited by serverless. So I think I balance well with Darko. So he really likes to manage servers. I really like to give my servers to someone else to manage.
Exactly. We're on the 2 sides of the operation spectrum. So.
All the opposites here. So this will be fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. My first question to all my guests is, you have been in reinvent before, so what you miss? What is like the blisters in your feet?
4 a.m. at Denny's. 4 a.m. at Denny's with all the European folks. So one of the things we used to do, at least in the last 2 reinvents, is like first day of reinvent or the second day of reinvent. Basically, it's 5 or 4 a.m. in the morning. A lot of folks meet at the Denny's. There's like a Denny's restaurant and on the Strip where a lot of folks who come from Europe and because of jet lag, we usually go for coffee and a horrible. I mean, like a massive heavy breakfast in the morning. So that's what I miss. But in general, I miss the people. I miss this. I miss this interaction. So yeah.
I've been inviting only European people, so everybody in my show is like Denny's breakfast.
Yeah, there you go.
next year we are going to have a huge amount of people in the Dennis breakfast because it's becoming a thing.
Fair point. Yeah, but I don't miss the massive walking around multiple hotels, and when you
Make
have
you
to.
fit.
Yeah. Well, so it's fine if it's all in the Venetian, but if you have to go between the Venetian and the MGM and a whole lot of different hotels and take the buses or walk, yeah. So that's something I don't miss, but okay, it's fine.
What about you, Danilo?
Yeah, I'm not a morning person normally, but jet lagged as I am in Vegas, normally I miss the breakfast where we were meeting with many people, and yeah, that part I miss. I actually enjoy working also in Vegas because there's normally this dry weather. I'm based in London, so I appreciate the dry weather very very much.
Yeah.
So yeah, I miss a little the working. I have to force myself to work a little bit. Otherwise, this period it's very easy to spend the whole day watching sessions and stuff at home.
Yeah, at least the last two reinvents there was a lot of rain. So I think the last 2 years it rained so much that all the escalators were stuck, so you could not go anywhere.
It
and I was
happened.
with my baby and the stroller, so it was like, damn.
my last reinvent started in such a way that I lost my luggage. So I came to Las Vegas, flew in from Germany, landed in the airport, and they're like, "Yeah, your luggage is in Berlin." I'm like, "Okay, what can I do?" Yeah, so I
go to the expo, get T-shirts.
Yeah, I went, got T-shirts and something to wear, but yeah, it was a bit stressful. But I must say, I was proud of myself last year in reinvent because unlike other years in Las Vegas, so Las Vegas, for those of you who haven't been, can be very taxing on a person if you spend 5 days with the ringing and the blinking and all that stuff. I actually went to a hotel off the Las Vegas Strip, so like my hotel wasn't in the main part, so I could actually, after I finished my talks and all the stuff regarding reinvent, I could just go to the hotel in peace and quiet. So that was a fun thing.
Nice. Yeah. I kind of like to stay in the Venetian. I stayed last year in the Venetian, and it was so nice. I didn't need to go out in the whole day. I was just from the expo to keynote to the hotel room. Who needs fresh air when you can smell tobacco all day?
Yeah, exactly, and air conditioning.
But yeah, let's start chatting a little bit. Now it's been a week of reinvent. Today we start the second week, and we have 2 keynotes, but we have Andy's Chassis keynote last week, and we have quite many announcements. Actually, we had an announcement last night about the new region in Melbourne. So that's pretty interesting. To wake up to that news, I was like, what? So,
but that's just an annountment. I mean,
it's 2022. So, but it was cool.
What is the region before that one?
I don't know. There's so many regions coming.
Is it Spain, Madrid? I think of course there's one in Madrid, but I'm not sure if that's the one before this one. But yeah, that's very cool.
I don't know, but it's pretty cool. I was happy to see more regions coming. But we had Andy keynote, and there was like, I don't know, like 40 different announcements. So maybe we can look a little bit of what were your favorite announcements, either from Andy keynote, pre-reinvent, I don't know, from the last month. Let's put it like that way, because reinvent starts like when they start announcing things.
There were 2 launches that completely changed the way I talk about AWS, because on one side, DynamoDB, this was before reinvent, is now a SQL interface, so you can use Particle, so a SQL-like interface to interact with DynamoDB. So using the term NoSQL now, it's more difficult. And on the other side, during reinvent, we had S3 consistent reads after an update. Now with S3, you were already getting a consistent read after an object was just created, but if you were updating for a little bit of time, you could still read the old version before. Now this is consistent, so you can use this for data lakes or for building a data storage. I always plan to build my own version of WordPress that is 100% serverless. So this is another brick in that direction. And so these two launches, I think I like them a lot. But basically 90% of my presentation needs to be updated now.
Yeah, but I think the S3 strong consistency is black magic. When I heard about it, I was like, how they do that? Because in general, in big distributed databases, and S3, it's a storage, it's very big, it's very distributed. Getting strong consistency from the architecture perspective on building that is hard.
It is. Especially with the scale, especially when you go to the cloud scale and global distribution. So having that read after write consistency is just a lot of things. So that is pretty cool. So Danilo, like with this NoSQL now, you mentioned WordPress. So does this mean you can just throw any SQL queries to DynamoDB, or how does that work?
Basically, you can use SQL that translates well into the DynamoDB APIs. So if you know how DynamoDB works, you understand what kind of select, what kind of insert updates you can do. But the syntax is very easy to use. It's familiar. So you still have to think about the primary key, the range key, these kind of things. But you can just insert, update, select. You have to be careful. There was some discussion about you can do very complex large-scale select that are mapped into a DynamoDB scan. But this is the same problem you have with a normal relational database. You can't expect an online transaction to do a select asterisk from a table and performance go well.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, this is the comment that you made. Like you want to have fully serverless WordPress. I mean, if serverless can make those SQL calls to DynamoDB, I see no reason why it shouldn't work. I'm not sure if you can change that, but that would be very, very interesting.
But now there is this Aurora serverless version 2 that is another part of the dark magic, how they managed to scale up so fast. And as you see, I don't know the inner details of anything yet. So for me, everything is dark magic.
No, I agree. I think serverless V2 is great. Now, it's currently only MySQL, right?
Postgres, I think, no? Or MySQL?
No, I think it's MySQL and Postgres is coming.
Okay.
Yes, something is only Postgres. It's Babelfish, right?
Babelfish that's what the one. Yes.
Yeah. So Babelfish is the only Postgres thing, and that's also a very cool release.
It is.
Babelfish is this translation engine that basically translates your Microsoft SQL or T-SQL language into an open source engine like Postgres in this case. So you can basically just plug in your application that requires T-SQL, and you can have it write things to an open source database engine like Postgres. So that's a very cool thing.
That's super cool. But I think that going back to the particle launch, because that's there is a new launch with Glue that is called Glue Elastic Views or something like that, allows you to create these kind of materialized views. And one of the sources is Dynamo. And I think because of this particle, they were able to grab the information from Dynamo, and then you can query it in these kind of Glue Elastic Views and create like another view that then you can use in your different applications or wherever you need that collection of data. So you can mix data. I think Dynamo, I don't remember what other things were the sources, but it was pretty interesting. And then you can, for example, filter it to Elasticsearch. So somebody in Twitter was saying that that's kind of a way to do index like text search in a web app with Dynamo, that you use the materialized views, put it in Elasticsearch, and I think that's one of the possibilities with the particle. So it's something to try out and see how it works. Maybe not directly like going into Dynamo and typing SQL, but maybe using it with some other tool. Like
I don't think we support the SQL-like operator to search into text, but it could be interesting. But in this way, you can do the small queries, the online transaction, you can do directly to Dynamo, and everything that is more complex analytics, group by, you can use the materialized view that Glue provides.
Yeah,
exactly. So there is quite a lot of things to play with that.
Yeah.
And what other launches? You were mentioning ARN processors and Graviton, things that I never talked about before.
Yeah. So those are the things I'm a fan of multiple players in the game, right? So in the pre-20 2016 world, most servers were Intel based, right? Then all of a sudden, AMD comes out with epic CPUs, right? Okay, we have AMD in the server space back again, and then to kind of just throw the wrench in the spanner in the works, right? You have all of a sudden ARM CPUs, and ARM CPUs are basically completely different architecture from your standard Intel or AMD, which are x86. These are using the ARM architecture, and now with the Graviton and Graviton 2 processors on AWS, you can actually run your workloads on these things. I mean, the whole thing behind that, you get better performance, or actually you get better performance for the money. I think the number is 40% performance over price over performance, something like that. So you get all of those things, and ARM chips are ever present from your phones that use ARMs to Raspberry Pis that they're just ARM chips, right? So think of this as an instance on AWS, which of course much more powerful, but yeah, I'm a fan. Like, and what came out on Andy's keynote is that we have the preview of C6GN instances, which are our Graviton 2 instances, but with enhanced networking. So you can get 100 gigabits of network on those things, which is pretty boom, yeah. And also Danilo mentioned to me this right before we started that the T4 instances, the burstable, cheaper Graviton instances are now free to try up until March 2021. So it was until the end of year, I think, initially.
Yeah.
And now we extended that until March next year. So if you have not tried to play around with ARM, and you should, it is something you should check it out. And
or
I'm sure you're
to
working
serverless land and don't care about it.
Okay. I had somebody once on stream ask me, like, so when are we going to get Graviton 2 Lambdas? I'm like, why do you care? Like, you never know. Maybe Lambdas run on Graviton CPUs, right?
I don't know. We need to ask them what they use to run. But from the Lambda aspect, there are also a lot of cost savings. You were saying, Danilo, what was your favorite launch of all?
For me, it's something that actually came also out from a discussion I had with AWS heroes. I think it was last year when we met with all the heroes in Seattle, and it was 1 millisecond billing. So and also there's a nice story, because a few months ago, when I already knew about this launch, there was someone who approached me. I think it was at a conference or something. So it was 2019 maybe. And they were telling me, I like Lambda, but I don't like it because I like services where you only pay for what you use. And I said, well, with Lambda, you pay. And he was telling me, no, because I only use 50 milliseconds and I have to pay for the whole 100 milliseconds that where you round up. And I said, okay, yeah. I understand that we are raising the bar on what pay-per-use means. And now you pay for 1 millisecond. So that means that many use cases that maybe were a little bit more expensive in the past are much cheaper now. Because, for example, if you build a web application where you maybe have a response time of 20 milliseconds for your Lambda function, it costs almost 1/5. I say almost because you still have the request price, but that's normally much smaller. And so you can really build interesting things. And this also coupled with the new power of the, like you can have now functions with 10 gigabytes of memory and 6 virtual CPUs. What I like is that if you build some code that can scale very well with multiple threads and multiple processors, if you add memory and CPU to your function, it will finish faster. So at the end, you can just go faster and spend the same money. Just yesterday, there was another customer who was playing with FFmpeg. FFmpeg has a trading option. So he enabled the trading option in Lambda. He was looking into the etc proc of the system to see how many processors there are. And this is something we expose in the Lambda environment, and then configure this parameter. And basically he said that by, I think, growing the memory, I don't remember how much, it was going 41% faster, and the price was 0 point something more expensive. So almost the same cost.
Exactly. Wow. And then Dan MBA is saying that Lambda now has support for AVX2. And I think that's also pretty cool, just not to get the basic general hardware that we were getting with Lambda, but then you get a better one that you can do more interesting things like machine learning, image processing, or and this with these 10 gigabytes and 1 millisecond execution and containers for Lambda. You can do all crazy things.
I mean, one of the pre-reinvent. Yeah. The thing before reinvent, one of the great things about Lambda launches back then was the Lambda extensions, right? So these pluginable things you can do with Lambda, such as app config and some different agents to your monitoring and auditing system. So I think that's a really big feature on Lambda that was released not so long ago. So big fan of that.
I'm also a big fan of that.
One thing about 1 millisecond billing. So I think it takes a lot of effort to actually do 1 millisecond billing, because if you do 100 millisecond billing, you can actually when you query or track how much Lambda has run, right, there is less things you need to do. So even building 1 millisecond billing from our end is a chore, right? So it's a thing that needs to be done and needs to be accounted for, smaller numbers and all that stuff. So I think that's also very important. So pretty cool.
Black magic.
Sometimes a lot of things that people do on AWS. So like I watched this a long time ago. I don't think this is like a public thing, but I watched how we do Glacier in Zai. How we actually build Glacier. And there was an engineer from AWS who explained how it was, how we did it. I'm like, wow, it's really black magic how people do this thing. So hence we have hire the best. We have so many great people working for AWS building these amazing services and features that are like, yeah, okay, worth it. So pretty cool.
It is. Yeah. Do you have some other good launches in the thing? Like, oh, I really like this.
The naming. Can we talk about the naming, please?
Sure. I was happy to name things. Very bad. Child 1, Child 2, Child 3. Those are the names of my kids.
Okay, so 2 words. Monitron and Tranium. Come on.
Oh, Transformers.
Yeah, it's like Monitron assemble. So it is very much. I need a T-shirt. We need to make a T-shirt with Monitron and Tranium, which are going to be the new Transformers. So,
but let's be honest, the little device that Monitron is the cutest Transformers of all. It's such a cute little box.
It's like I like the fact what it is. Like I would love to have one just to see how it works. And I come from Eastern Bloc country. Our old machines are very like Soviet machines, and the big ones that are vibrating all the time. So I'm wondering if that little Monitron would work on old Cold War machines. Will it detect that it's broken immediately, or will it learn that, oh yeah, this is how it should work? Yeah. So yeah, but I mean, the names are just weird. Like I get it what it does. It's a machine that monitors strings, so let's call it Monitron. But it is very, very 1982 child cartoons.
But I like more names like Monitron, because at least you can Google for it. It's something descriptive. Yes. Yeah. Because, for example, QuickSight Q is a horrible name. How you Google that? If you queue something, like I think making very distinctive names, I'm always up for that, even if they sound funny, because then you get used to it's like a little thing there, like. But names that are words are very bad. They are ungoogleable.
One of the best names I've seen out there, and I made this mistake, but by laughing at it, was our quantum computing, the bracket thing. When we launched it, I went on a recap on one of the user groups in Bosnia actually, and I told them like, hey, check out this silly name. What does bracket mean? And then somebody like, actually, bracket is a term in quantum computing. I'm like, oh.
That's a serious name.
Yeah, it's a very serious name. I'm like, okay, and that basically people who know quantum computing or care about quantum computing know what bracket is, and they know the services for them. So good on you, AWS. Good on you. Yeah. So
I played a little bit with bracket, and it's one of the services that I think it's really looking showing the direction for how we will be able to use quantum computing. And I studied a little bit of quantum mechanics at university. And I remember basically you start with some equations that grow and grow. No, everybody knows Schrödinger cat, but there's this Schrödinger equation, and it's more complex. But then at some point, Dirac comes. Dirac, this great genius, and he says, okay, let's replace everything with a bracket, and it's literally a couple of brackets that have a different meaning. And all this complexity, at least visually, disappears with these brackets that represent lots of stuff. So and everything is much easier to at least look at. But it's a very strange word, the quantum mechanical word.
I still haven't had a chance to play with bracket. Like that's for me, quantum computing is quantum computing. It's very complex in my head. I wouldn't call it rocket science because I think it's more complex than rocket science.
That's the other service, the ground station.
The ground station, that's rocket science.
It's more interplanetary, interstellar science.
So yeah, but I think that's a very cool. That's a cool name. At least I'm sure the service is also amazing, but it's a cool name. And also I think.
If you want to do some black magic with bracket, bracket support notebooks similar to what you do with SageMaker, for example. No? And there's one of the very famous algorithms with quantum computing is the search one. Yeah. So normally, if you have, let's say, you have 1 million of a list of 1 million of elements in a table without any index. Okay. How much time does it take to find an element? Normally, it takes roughly the same amount of time as the number of elements that you had. Correct. Yeah. Maybe if you're lucky, is in the middle, maybe at the beginning. But if you have n elements, it takes n divided by 2 to find it. With quantum computing and the black magic, you can find an element with the square root of n. So if you have 1 million of elements, normally it doesn't take more than 1,000 of lookups to find the element. And this is one of the notebooks that we provide that you can try with a very simple list of, I think, of 5 elements. And so it's a little bit scaled down the problem, but it's one of the examples. So with using this black magic that quantum computing provides, you can look up an element very quickly in an unordered and unindexed list.
But bracket simulates quantum computing, right? Or does it?
No. It does. It does two. So with bracket, you have basically a basic simulator that is embedded in the notebook instance that you're using, and that's limited. Then there is a powerful simulator that can simulate multiple qubits. A qubit is like the equivalent of the bit for quantum computing. And if you have many qubits, they interact with each other. So that means that if you need to simulate them, you need many servers working together to simulate like 10, 12 qubits. Right. And so you can use this simulator that is already very complex to manage and scale. And then you have partnership with 3 providers that are using actual quantum computing infrastructure. Okay. Each provider has something slightly different. 2 are relatively similar. One is D-Wave is completely different because it's quantum annealing. It's more for optimization. And you can test with the simulator, and then you just change basically the provider of the engine. So I ran my first real quantum computing stuff. And you can also see that it's a little bit, you get more error because quantum computing, you get this magic, but you get this error that you need to minimize with iteration. So you can see when you run on the simulator, everything is clean. When you run on a real quantum processor, you see small errors even there, and then you can find the final result. So it's something that is very cool. That from my home, I can connect and run quantum computing with really the cost of not even a coffee.
So now you made me try. I'm gonna have to try bracket after this stream. So, but yes,
one more thing to the list of things to try.
Oh boy, so many things. Yeah, one of the things I want to try, and this was announced last on the keynote, and everybody's talking about it, is this new service called Proton.
Oh yeah.
It's some sort of a CI/microservices deployment service. I think it wraps multiple different services into one convenient console. It gives you the ability to create, provision infrastructure templates through infrastructure as code, but from a really nice kind of a UI. And it kind of, somebody told me it's like a child between Service Catalog and Code Star. So, but I think the difference between this one and Service Catalog basically is just a vending machine for CloudFormation templates. The difference between that one and this one is that from this one you can actually push updates to all of the resources, all of the environments being managed by Proton. So.
Yeah,
I still have to play with it, so
I heard weird things on the internet, but I think one of the most relevant things that I didn't try the service yet, but I was looking at the slides that we get from inside AWS. We can see these kind of service descriptions, and what I understood that this is really powerful when you are working with teams. If you're doing it yourself, then for making a Lambda function that says hello world, you might need to write a lot of things and create a huge infrastructure. But the idea is when you have the platform team and the developer teams, then the platform team can kind of enforce different standards and create templates that kind of are good and polished and adhering to good practices. And then developers basically need just consume those templates, fill the parameters that are there, because it happens, for example, in serverless applications that you create the same kind of infrastructure over and over again with different code. Yeah. And also, for example, for CI/CD pipelines, you can make your code pipeline 20 times with different things that you are deploying inside. Every microservice will need a pipeline that is exactly the same. And then if you need to maintain those 20 million pipelines, it's very hard. But if you can have it centralized and then you change one pipeline and everything changed, then it's way easier to orchestrate. So I understood that was the idea, and I'm really excited to try that out because I love automation.
It should be cool. Like I don't have a lot of input on it, but
there is a session on that already in the reinvent. So if you are interested in Proton, you should go and search in the little box for Proton, and you will find the session from Rafa Alvarez. He was talking about that, and it's in my pending list things to watch because I think that's something very interesting. Yeah, there's so many sessions.
Can we shill our own sessions? Can I talk about?
Oh yeah, I was planning to promote yourself, but you can promote your own self if you want. Okay. There's no Cobus here, so you don't need
there's
to
no Cobus, there's no money. I'll put some money somewhere. I'll give some money to Cobus. I have 2 sessions coming up next week. So next week. I have a session coming up on the 17th and the 16th, basically the last 2 days. I have a session on Systems Manager. So the session name is Automate Anything with AWS Systems Manager. It's happening on the 17th at 10 p.m. CET, 10:15 p.m. CET.
I will put the code in the screen. And then also everybody can find the sessions that we talk about in a link that I create later. So it will be available for everybody there. Yeah,
that's the link from Marcia. So it's a session about how automating stuff with Systems Manager is cool, how you can write automation documents and run command documents and all those things, because sometimes not everything is serverless, by the way. Just putting it out there. So if you're interested in operations and Systems Manager and doing things on servers, check that out. I also get to talk about 2 new features coming out, so that's very interesting. And also on the 17th, I have on the 16th, I have a talk called Test Twice, Deploy Once. It's about how can you test your infrastructure code on AWS. So testing CloudFormation and testing
This is with CDK,
both CDK and CloudFormation. Just how can you implement some of those things there. Pretty cool, pretty interesting. So make sure to check it out. It's the DOP 309. That's the one.
Nice.
Please check it out and give me feedback. So, let me know how I did.
I'm pretty sure you did very well, because at least the testing infrastructure, we have some similar one in my channel, and it's a very fun conversation. So.
Absolutely. Check that out. Check out that one with Marcia.
Yeah, and Danilo, you also have a couple of talks in reinvent.
Yes. My sessions were last week, so they're both available on demand now. The first one is the session that I did together with Shim Results from Lego, and last year already we worked together in a session, and Lego shared I think 20 or something use cases that they were building with serverless for the e-commerce shop of Lego. So this year in this new session, we focus on more advanced use cases. And basically, we divided things in between orchestration and choreography. So the use cases where they use a more strict orchestration using step functions, normally inside a microservice, or where two microservices are tied together because, for example, you have a sort of a distributed transaction, like you have to manage a rollback in case of error. And also choreography when they use, this is where Shin really is making amazing use cases. You use Event Bridge to as the serverless event bus to let all the microservices that they create for example, for the e-commerce experience to collaborate and talk together in an event-driven architecture. So it's really covering a few use cases from, for example, if you go on the Lego website and you try to buy something but it's not available, you can ask, hey, I want to be notified when this product is now available. And behind this simple flag, there is a DynamoDB table and a few microservices that will monitor and then receive the event when the product is back and send you an email to tell you, hey, now the product you were looking for is back, you can come back. So it's really interesting. Yeah.
I love the sessions from the customers. I think, at least for me, they are always the most interesting, because then you can, if they show you like these very deep dives on the architecture diagrams and they show you how they're solving the problems, then you can get a lot of inspiration on how to solve your own problems. I was watching the Disney talk a couple of days ago on how Disney is solving a lot of their scaling issues with Dynamo. And I remember my time when I was a customer from AWS, and we were also building like a video distribution platform. And I was like, oh man, if Dynamo will have had those features like 5 years ago, it's like, I was like, oh, this is so cool. And I think the Lego session also is really cool. Shin is a great speaker, and he's one of my guests also in this show. So if you want to catch up with him and ask him questions, he will be here. I don't remember which day.
The only thing I missed this year to prepare the session, I couldn't visit the Lego office, so I don't have new bricks. This is from last year when I visited.
You need to get something shipped to your house.
I have to. Yeah, and then I have a...
Actually, she was coming tomorrow. I just check my schedule.
Wow. And I was saying I have another session that is more focused on using Lambda for data analytics and machine learning. This is even more important now that we have this large function that can use up to 10 gigabytes of memory and 6 CPUs. And in that case, it's not really, I would say that most of the content is not AWS specific. It's really talking about how you can use functions to manage this kind of analytical workloads. So I talk about Monte Carlo methods. That the name is really interesting. It's basically using randomness, like in the Monte Carlo casino, to solve problems. That should have been fun to talk about Monte Carlo methods in Las Vegas. Unfortunately, I couldn't. I couldn't do that.
That's one of the things I always like from your talks, Danilo. You always have like a lot of theory. Like it's not just AWS products or like how to use something, but like you learn some computer science every time you hear Danilo.
And Monte Carlo methods work very well with Lambda because basically you're doing things at random in parallel, and then at the end you get some kind of solution for problems where we don't have an exact solution. I do an example with for example, computing the area of a shape where we don't have a formula, like you design a cloudy shape. How can you understand how much is the area of this shape? I give an example in the talk. And then another best practice that works very well with the function is ensemble methods. As the name suggests, it's when you want to take an ensemble of small things and put them together. So all these small things can work into multiple Lambda functions, and then you take the result together. So for example, ensemble forecasting is when you do lots of small forecasting, maybe even simple forecasting methods to find the solution of a problem, and then you put them together to see what's the global forecast, looking at all the different perspectives. It's something that is very much done, for example, in weather forecasts. So normally when you see something like 56% of rain probability, it means that maybe they run 100 models, and of these 100 models, 56 tell that there is rain, and the other 146 tell you that there is no rain, and then you say, okay, I don't need to run a very large model. I can run many small models, maybe with small different initial conditions, and you get different results. And also similar approaches with machine learning with ensemble learning. So instead of computing a large machine learning model, you build many small machine learning model, and then you use them together to find a more useful answer.
And all that with Lambda.
Yeah.
Oh. One of my goals for 2021 is to get started with machine learning. So I need to watch that talk then.
Yeah.
I think today there is also a talk on how to start with machine learning with Amazon SageMaker. So that's another good way to start with machine learning.
Yeah, but I think sometimes I have the feeling I don't have enough like background. I hear SageMaker talks and they are like, they're a little bit away of what I know. So I think I need to start from the beginning.
I think what services like machine learning services like SageMaker do at AWS, they give the people who have no machine learning background the ability to try, to start,
Exactly.
to go play. It's not like, before the time of the cloud and services like SageMaker, you would have to set this all up all yourself, and it was a bit iffy, and it took more effort to get started than to actually learn machine learning. And you lose a lot of the will in between. So this is just
when I studied 20 million years ago, we learned about machine learning, and like we learned the concepts in a paper and how to draw these neural networks and things like that. But I never put anything into real practice because, as you say, it was super hard to set up those things. So I'm missing like some piece of education there. But I will get it this year. That's kind of part of my things I want to learn. So yeah, they're saying that the machine learning keynote is today. Yes, that's the thing. You should stop watching this stream in 20 minutes and then go brew a coffee. You have 45 minutes break and then go and watch Swarmy keynote. I think yes. Cool.
That should be pretty fun. So.
Yeah, that's how you start reinvent day today. Yeah. Somebody saying that SageMaker. Oh, Felicia. I always say someone, and because I never read the names, and then I realized Felicia, our new developer advocate.
What is SageMaker Wrangler? What is SageMaker Wrangler? I heard about that, but
Data Wrangler. Yeah, it's somehow similar to Glue Data Brew. In fact, there is a nice video from Julian Simon that is comparing the two solutions. So basically, the idea is that if you take raw data that normally you need to clean, prepare for any kind of analytics of machine learning, we now have two solutions. One is more, so the Glue Data Brew is very visual, and you can customize more than what is already provided. And the SageMaker one is built more on top of Jupyter. So if you use notebooks with machine learning, you know what Jupyter is. And it also allows you to extend it, for example, with specific Apache Spark jobs. So it's a little bit more advanced. So, but it really depends. So if you're probably doing machine learning and you need to prepare data, then you can use Data Wrangler. If you're more into ETL, probably Data Brew is your cup of brew.
Just put the link of Julian's video on the screen because he's talking from the Hobbit house and explaining us which one to use. So I think Julian's YouTube channel is always great to learn new things.
Especially in machine learning. I love his videos on machine learning. So very good.
So besides the keynote, what you are watching or what you recommend our audience, Danilo?
So today, on top of all the machine learning stuff, and one of the tips that we should always give is after a keynote, when we do the launches, search for new sessions that contain the word new launch, because probably something new will appear after the keynote, depending on what we announce. But focusing on serverless, today there is a great session by Ben Smith. So if you like PHP and the LAMP stack, the serverless LAMP stack, I think it's if you like PHP, Laravel, or other PHP frameworks, I think it's a good way to start with serverless. And then there is another session that is focused on how to build scalable event-driven architecture with SNS, SQS, and Lambda. No, SNS and SQS were my two favorite services before Lambda came out. So seeing all three together, it's really exciting.
It is. And I think always those connecting sessions like event bridge, step functions, SNS, SQS are like super important when you're making serverless applications because you need to stitch them together. So I'm putting the session names and the code in the screen for everybody. And there is one serverless talk that I'm very interested. It's called Enabling Serverless First Cloud Center of Excellence. And I think, as Andy was saying, that 50% of the new deployments on AWS are on Lambda and serverless. I think learning how to do, if you're a big company or a bigger organization, making a cloud center of excellence, it's something at least I'm interested on the good practices. So that's something I will watch. And
I think that session there's also as a guest someone from Liberty Mutual.
Yes.
Yeah. That's an amazing team. I think they are. They have so many AWS heroes into their lines.
I think they have like 4 AWS heroes. And I think like with Lego, there are like big organizations that have gone into serverless first and have done a lot of serverless adoption. So I think it's always nice to hear what they're saying. So yeah. And what about you, Darko? What you recommend us?
So I've made a note of one session I want you all to check out, especially folks in larger scale enterprises and companies or places where management and governance and visibility is very important. So there's a new service that came out, I think last week. Yes, it's called App Manager. Now it sounds, is it App Manager? No, App Registry, not App Manager. It sounds very hip, but it's actually a CLI. It's an API. There's no UI. There's nothing for you. But if you want to have things like being able to attach cost centers and specific operational status and a lot of metadata to an application. Now, application can be a lot of things. It can be not just your EC2 instances or your Lambda functions. It's everything else around it. So everything you deploy through CloudFormation. So what App Registry gives you the ability to do is actually attach a list of attributes or metadata to a specific application. So it's kind of think of it as a bit more than tags, right? Because it goes on all of those things. It's not individual resource tags. So there is a session called Gaining Application Level Governance and Cost Visibility. Such a sexy name.
What is the code so I can search for it?
The code is MGT 302. So.
302. Nice.
Yes. So it's by Karsten Kell. He's one of the folks from the App Registry team. So I've worked with them. Pretty cool. Should be pretty interesting. So do check it out. It's actually happening today. So I would always highly advise people to see that and see how that works if that's something they're looking for. So.
And the good thing of watching the sessions when they are live is that there's usually the speaker there as answering questions. Yeah. So it's one of the perks of watching the session when it launched. I know it's everything available on demand, but if there is something that you really want to watch, it's nice to watch it when it's coming out, because then the speaker is hanging out and answering questions in the little chat button in the screen.
Yeah, yeah, that's waiting for me for my sessions as well. So
yeah,
should be fun.
I think the user interface is a little bit confusing for people, and they don't know that they can ask questions, but yes, you can. So if you're watching this and you have questions, go and ask them. We are more than happy to interact with you. And most of the speakers I have seen that they put their Twitter or email or something. So contact us. I think I said that at the beginning and I say it at the end again. Talk to us.
Yeah. I mean, we are supposed to be your voice within AWS. I think that's what our names are, like developer advocates.
Anybody speaking at reinvent in general, they're more than happy to have a discussion. And you spend a lot of time building this content, not to speak to the wall when you record this thing alone at home, but to have an interaction. So in general, when you are in a real conference, you are in the stage, you speak, and then you get down, and then you have 20 million people coming and ask you questions. So do that, ask questions, and Nobody will be like, oh, this person is asking questions. Horrible.
That is the chat interface I'm missing. That's the best chat interface, when you finish a session and people stop you, or even during your session they keep on asking questions.
Yeah.
I miss that. I miss people, but hey.
I miss people too. That's why you're here.
I know. Hello, people.
Yeah.
And also people in the chat here watching the stream, feel free to post questions if you have something to us.
Exactly.
It's not just about us yelling at the camera. It's also about you. So
Exactly. I'm always forget to encourage people to ask questions. I'm too used to record myself.
yes. Yeah, I'm the one.
Yes.
I'm the one who live streams a lot.
Exactly.
So-
Yeah. Do you have some other sessions to recommend?
There is the one I've found it very interesting. It's called choosing the right modern deployment strategy. It's about DevOps and how to actually deploy application. Do you do
interesting.
blue, green, canary, rolling, or whatever kind of deployments? It should be a great talk about, hey,
What is the code?
The code is the DOP 303. It's by Andrew Baird. So it could be really cool for all the folks interested in the deployment strategies, CI/CDs, and all that stuff. So make sure to check that out. It's happening today.
Oh,
yes.
nice. So you're doing like really telling people what to watch today.
Yes. I think that's the name of the show.
Yeah, I know, but I never expected my guests like go and look for talks that are happening today. I'm open for people to tell me whatever.
You're
You
welcome.
need to put a marketing name, like watch something or reinvent. It's not maybe as trendy as.
So the proper marketing name for this session, like top 5 sessions, because you don't have to do you need to do a countdown list. So yeah. So
Yeah, somebody's asking me an Amplify question, and I'm always excited about those, so I will take it. So, yeah, they're asking, what situations do you recommend using Amplify for building backends, simple backends or complex too? I think it depends where you're coming from, because I think inside AWS, there is different tools for different people. And that's one of the biggest things in AWS is not to build one thing that fits all, is to build a lot of diversity of products. And for building backends, you have CDK, you have Amplify, you have Serverless Framework, you have CloudFormation if you want to go that way. Or you can even go to the console or doing with third-party things. So I think if you are coming from a full stack or front end, or maybe are new to AWS, Amplify is a great solution. And you can build pretty cool, complex things. Always Amplify has this kind of security guardrails in place because it's meant for people that are like, maybe if you're a full CloudFormation expert, Amplify is too limiting. But I think a lot of the use cases can be covered with Amplify for web development or mobile development. So you can go as complex as Amplify allows you. It depends on what you mean complex, because you can model, like the data modeling is very powerful with Amplify. You have you are using AppSync and Dynamo, so it's very scalable. For example, if you are using that way of modeling your data, and then you have the annotations, the GraphQL annotations that allows you to use like secondary index and really manipulate the Dynamo tables to make them very efficient and very performant. So you can go very complex, but again, you have to understand the limitations of Amplify. But the great thing of Amplify that everything is built on infrastructure as code. So if you want to exit Amplify because you arrive to a point in your application where the Amplify doesn't let you grow or doesn't let you be as complex as you want, you can always take that CloudFormation and extend it yourself and start using something else. So that's one of my favorite things from Amplify, is not locking you down in using this tool and then you're trapped there forever. So I hope that helps. But without knowing your use case, it's very hard to tell like simple or complex.
So I think the answer here is it depends.
Yeah.
I mean, really, unfortunately, that's the biggest non-answer out there. But yeah.
But it's built on top of AWS services, so everything is scalable. Everything is designed to perform, and is built in with the best practices from the community, from the mobile developers and web developers. So if you are building, for example, a front-end application that is doing like, I don't know, image gallery or something like that, Amplify might be more than enough. But maybe if you are making some web backend that is more decentralized and more microservices and more complicated bits and pieces, then you might want to go through SAM or CDK and then use the Amplify just for the front end and the API gateway. Because at the end of the day, you can also combine these things. You can use, I don't know, SAM for your backend, and then have API gateway, AppSync, for example, and Amplify connected to that backend. So you can mix and match things, and depending how you're building your microservices as well, and how big is your.
And do you think now it's much easier to manage backends with the new Amplify Admin Ui? I think it's called.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite reinvent launch. One of the less promoted things, and I think it's one of the most interesting things, at least for new people coming into the AWS world, because now the Admin UI allows you to do manage your backend and create content for your backend without having an AWS account. So this is a great example that you have a company where there is one backend developer. It creates the basic app in Amplify, and then all their front-end developers or client developers can work on modeling the data and modeling the endpoints and things like that without really understanding Dynamo or GraphQL. So I think that's super powerful. So I would recommend you to check that out, the Admin UI for AppSync. And there is a talk about at least Amplify today, if I can find it, empower front-end and mobile development with Amplify. I don't know if they are mentioning this launch, but I hope they are, because I think it's one of those empowerment tools. So if you're interested in knowing more, I would recommend you that. And I think with that, we can wrap up, because there is the keynote in a while, yeah. So people might want to get ready and take a little break from the computer before sitting for a couple more hours.
Exactly. And I have a user group meetup during the keynote, so it should be fun. Yeah.
Nice. But yes, thank you very much for being here. I will leave your Twitters in the screen, but I'm pretty sure people already know you. You're quite familiar faces, but if you don't, you should follow these two guys. They're amazing. And yeah, thank you very much for your time, Danilo and Darko. Didi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Bye.